Good evening. Welcome back to the Zcast, and thank you for joining me at the workbench of chaos. So I've got a little mini video here. We are working today on a Realistic Radio Shack HTX-202 2-meter handheld radio. These came out when I was a kid. I want to say 94, 95, something like that. They're a full-sized single band amateur HT for 2 meters. There was also a 70 centimeter one. These are surprisingly amazing. These were actually built by, the first production batch was built by ICOM, and then the subsequent production runs were moved to Maxon in Korea, big manufacturer of mobile radios. These things are just built like a brick shithouse. They are very reliable. They have very good power handling. You can transmit on 5 watts 24/7 on these for one reason. This big ugly belt clip here, which somebody has modified with a little hook. That's cute. I bet they had it in their car, right? On one of those button hooks. This entire belt clip is the heat sink for the radio. So it keeps it cool, keeps it happy. These are great radios with one fatal flaw. They have a little button cell in them, and around this time, the late 80s to the mid 90s, manufacturers took a really ugly shortcut to preserving memories, like your channel memories and settings and stuff like that in these radios. And what they did is they literally just wired a button cell battery across the VCC line of the CPU. Which is all fine and good until the battery goes dead and shorts dead, and then the CPU can't boot. So how it is presented here, plug in power, and I'll turn it on, and hopefully you can see here, it says ER1. That is our cue. And I know the radio works, because if you do a soft reset on it, let's hold down the function button on the side, and the D key in the bottom right. This is kind of dexterity needed here. Turn it on, you'll see it boots up and it's fine. So we need to replace that battery. Now, I've had these before. I also have some ICOMs that suffer from the same problem. The easy dirty hack is to just cut out the battery, right? I don't want to do that. So come to the rescue, Amazon. They have CR2032s with solder tabs. You see, you don't need a holder or anything. You just solder these in. And one of these is 60 cents. So that's what we're going to attempt this evening. Grab my fancy Fantic screwdriver that somebody convinced me to buy that I honestly do love. And let's get this thing cracked open. So, first step, Phillips, where are you at? And if I pull things off camera, it's because I'm old and I need to look at things up close, sometimes above my glasses. I'm doing that thing, right? Let's see if it'll power unscrew these. These have likely never been unscrewed in, I don't know, 25, 30 years? My dad bought one of these HTs and I loved it so much. One nice thing is they are kind of juicy on the power output, to the point that if you put in a good solid 12 volts or more DC through the front or the top port, which is a very convenient 5.5, 2.1, the DC plug we all know and love. Thank you, Radio Shack. If you get a good power supply, these things will do like 6 watts on high power all day long, forever. Chunky little rigs. So I would borrow his, and I'd put it on my bicycle with a old moped battery that we had that had like no capacity, but I could get some time out of it. Let's continue to try to take this thing apart. There we go. Always got to be careful with these old things because they will be connected, the two halves, some sort of cable. There it is. All right. And there's our battery that we hate. So I'm gonna try it with my regular iron, and we'll see if this has enough grunt. I may have to pull out the big gun, literally gun. So let's see what we can do here. So this is tip tinner. I found this recently. It's just kind of some sort of solder-ish substance. I'm not sure what exactly, but if you just run your iron through it, it melts up a little bit, puts a nice shiny tip on it, and then I love these brass spongy things. You just go get a little murderous on it. So let's see if we can get this desoldered here. Seems reasonably quick to start out with. Yeah. She's moving. Okay, it's also glued. That's why. So, looking at the old battery, that's bad. Go to hell. This is the positive side. The negative side is it's got a little bend in it, a little kink. I'm gonna just try to flatten that out so it goes against that metal plate a little bit better. Let's check our size here. So that wire is a little short, so I actually need to relocate it. And so it was soldered way over here. I'm going to move it in a few centimeters or millimeters. The old ritual of find some stick-shaped thing on the bench to scoop up flux with. I'm going to flux that up right there. Thanks, old battery. You were useful even in death. All right. And I just want to tin this up. I'll actually solder the battery on in a sec, but let's get our base metal laid down here. You gotta go quick here. You don't want to cook all the electronics. See, that took, right? That's nice tin plated stuff there. So you can see kind of my second solder pad a little bit to the right of the OEM one. I'm actually going to do it this way. So I can use my left hand to hold it down after it's melted. Make sure it cools properly, etc. Just about like that. There's a little ribbon cable right there. I got to make sure to not melt that. But let's go for it. Dump some solder on, melted. Awesome, rock solid, heart touching. Get in there. That's all you need, a couple of seconds. All right, so the hard work of the repair is done. Make sure clearance looks good. Everything looks good. Pop this back together. Moment of truth. In theory, this may come up with an ER1 still. Yes, it did. So let's do the CPU reset. Okay, 144.2. Now we turn it off. If our repair worked, we won't have to reset it again. And it's back. This radio is now back to 100% functionality. I can, let's see here. 146.520, and we're going to hold down function for memory right. There we go. So we're in VFO mode now, and we want to go to memory mode, so that's 652. We're going to turn it off. We're going to unplug it. We're going to count to 3, 4, 5. Plug it back in. Turn it on. Memory 1 still has 146.52. 12 memory channels. This does not receive NOAA weather. It does not have any expanded coverage, and that's why it's such a good radio. So the 2-meter handband is 144 through 148 megahertz. In this era, it was very cool and very common because all the cops were still on these public service bands to have expanded coverage. So they'd be like 136 to 174 usually. And that would cover like all the 152 megahertz, you know, police, fire, sheriff, frequencies and stuff. And you can listen to the NOAA weather up at 162.55, stuff like that. The downside of that is that you have to be able to receive those. So the front end filter on this, the circuit that allows only the signals you want to come through and blocks everything else, it has to be wider. So you can make a filter with, be however wide you want via selecting the parts and the design right. So those had wide filters. What that meant was, if you were next to like a pager transmitter and you were trying to talk on the ham band, your radio would get deafened because it was allowing that signal through to the first transistor of the receiver and just overloading it. It'd go deaf on what you wanted to hear because it was hearing, like, it's like trying to whisper to somebody next to you when there's a dude screaming like 5 feet away. Like, he's all you hear, right? These were different because these only cover 144 to 148. So if I go to 144.000, I go down, it just goes up to 148. And then going up, 148 is the highest, back down to 144. So the front end filter on this is very tight, very restrictive. It only allows that little 4 megahertz slice to come through. And this is awesome because then that pager transmitter or the sheriff department transmitter that might be nearby, they can't get through and they can't deafen the radio. So these were excellent rigs. You get a tuning knob, a volume knob, and a squelch knob. And it gets quite loud. The audio amp is great on this. You can hear it in like a noisy car. That's why I think somebody was using this mobile, because they dremeled out this hole. This is not OEM. And they hung it on a microphone hook in their truck or whatever. So that's my little tale about the HTX-202 radio that I got. And since you made it all the way to the end of the video, you will be pleased to learn that I paid $15 plus $5 shipping for this. So for $20 plus 60 cents for the battery and a little bit of sweat here in the shack, I got a nice HT. I'll probably just give this away to somebody. I have too many handhelds. And the role that this particularly serves is filled by other ones that I like more. But these are wonderful. I'm going to give it to a new ham or somebody that doesn't have a bunch of money, and they'll have a cool little HT that they can talk on the local repeaters with. So thank you for hanging out with the Zcast. I'm going to button this back up and go back and watch this video to find out where this frickin' piece went, and then get this ready to move on. So thanks for watching the Zcast here in the Workshop of Chaos. Have a wonderful night.